Keep living in your right mind. How are you all doing today? Thank you all for being here today. Yes, this is the day that the Lord has made, and we're going to rejoice and be glad in this day. Well, I tell you, I am excited about today because we have a special guest with us. And before I introduce our special guest, we got to remember that keep living in your right mind pledge, right? So, number one, make sure you are prioritizing your well being. That's right, increase your self care. Two, make sure that you're making the best and safest decision for your loved one. That's your responsibility, okay? And third, create a good support system. Ask for help, you all. You don't have to be superwoman, you don't have to be superman, but you need to ask for help, okay? And those three highlights right there of our pledge, I tell you, if you follow that, you will keep living in your right mind. Well, today we have with us our special guest, Candace Morley. Yes, yes, yes. Candace Morley is a licensed clinical social worker, and she has, I tell you, an extensive amount of experience and is here today to give us some tips. You know, a lot of people may tell you, hey, therapy is for crazy people. You know, why are you going to see a therapist? Just pray about it. You don't need to go see a therapist. But I tell you, after today, she's going to enlighten us and let you understand why therapy should be at the top of your self care list. Okay? Well, thank you, Candace, for joining us today. I'm so glad to have you with us. Thank you so much. Tell everybody, give us some more information about your background, Candace.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Um, I'll start a little bit with how I got into this profession, what led me here. I'm the youngest child of five. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. My oldest sister is a therapist, and as I was trying to figure out, navigating a career field, I knew that I was passionate about helping people. I just wasn't really sure what that looked like, if I wanted to be a teacher, if I wanted to be a nurse. And again, we weren't really introduced to therapy, growing up, or at least our families didn't really talk a whole lot about it. And so when my sister got into the field, it led me to it. It made me understand, like, this is a calling for me. This is a passion for me. And I'm honored and blessed to have my passion and my profession kind of intersect, and I could do the work that I love. And I realized one of the important things about therapy was giving somebody a person that can sit across from them that looks like them. And I think that some of the myths that, we talk about what therapy is or why people go to therapy, I think one of the biggest challenges or barriers was that people would not be able to relate or understand because they didn't look like them or they didn't come from the same type of background. So that's kind of what led me here. I've been doing this work for almost 20 years. And that is crazy to say when I think about it, but it has been an amazing journey. I've worked with children, I've worked with families. I'll tell people my population has been as young as 6 and as seasoned as 80, 85 years old. So I have seen a gamut of people that I've worked with different challenges and issues. I've worked in school systems, I've worked in healthcare, I do couples counseling, I do individual therapy. So it is a melting pot of experience that I've had, and it has made me the therapist that I am today.
Wow, that is awesome, Candace. Well, I tell you again, you all, if you haven't shared this live, if you haven't invited your family, friends, and your sisters and your brothers to come over here, please do. Because just like Candace provided you her background, we're going to dive right into a lot of the questions and understand the root cause why people do not go to therapy. You know, what is that stemming from? So, hey, again, share, share, share. Tell your family, friends, and come on over to keep living your right mind and We Empower Network. Well, Candace, thank you so much again for that background. And we're just going to dive into, okay? We're
Okay.
just going to dive into this topic therapy, the new normal. So, what are the different types of therapy services or different types of therapists that are out there today?
So there are a lot of backgrounds of therapists that people can seek out or that you may encounter as you're searching for a therapist. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how we differ, and the majority of that is our education and our background. All right. So I'll start with myself. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, which means that my background or my education training is in social work. Um, and I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in social work, as well as some clinical training, and then I get licensed, which you take a national board exam, and then you get licensed in the states that you are either residing in or states that you offer services in. In order for a person to have a LCSW, they must have a master's degree in social work. And like I mentioned, they must take this national board exam and get licensed in their state. So I'm currently licensed in Florida, as well as Georgia, and seeking to be licensed in other states so that I can provide services to people in different places.
Awesome.
Then you have psychologists, right? So psychologists have psychology backgrounds, and their education, of course, is in psychology. They have to get doctorate degrees in order to be licensed as a psychologist. So you'll either see a PhD or a PsyD, and those two, degrees differ a little bit based off of like their requirements. But those are psychologists, and again, their background and education is psychology. You may see a marriage and family therapist, right? So the difference is their study is specific to marriage and family therapy. And their credentials are LMFT, and usually that's what you'll see. That means that they have a master's degree in family counseling, or again, their special track has been geared around, family treatment as well as marriage and couple therapy. Same thing, they take a national board exam and they get licensed in the states that they either reside or provide services in. You may see an LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor, and that's a little generalist. Again, it depends on the state. Not every state has LPCs, but those are people who have different graduate degrees that have a counseling background, but they don't necessarily fall under those specific umbrellas of psychology, social work, or marriage and family therapy. You may see a licensed mental health counselor. Again, that differs by state. So that's an LMHC, and they have a master's degree in mental health counseling, and then they also take a licensing exam, a national board exam, and then they get licensed based off of the state they're providing services in. You may see a divinity person, and that's usually a counselor that offers religious or spiritual counseling. And these people have done divinity training, to specialize in offering that type of treatment. So those are the different types of counseling that you might seek out, and find in a journey to, of course, finding the best fit for a therapist.
Awesome, awesome. That's a lot of good information. Some of those I did not even know myself. So that's some very good information. What are the benefits for someone attending a therapy session?
Whoa, I don't know if I could even start all of the benefits that that come along with participating in therapy. But one thing that I'll point out is finding a safe space.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be really challenging to speak freely, with the fear of being judged or the fear that somebody may go and share your information with other people. And they can't
Right.
necessarily give you a good perspective. And so one of the things is, of course, we're trained to be very general, in a sense, be very transparent about what it is that you're coming in to talk about and to process, as well as we're bound by law. So, we start with that. Like, we are bound by law to keep your information private unless it's a safety concern or you give us permission to do so. And so sometimes people feel comfortable knowing that it's a safe space to come in and be transparent and talk about some things that might be very challenging to go and discuss in, some of their interpersonal relationships. And it just creates that freedom, to really talk about things that might be very challenging to discuss. And then the separation of the relationship, knowing that somebody can give you a different perspective, that may not share the same beliefs that you have, may not share the same background that you have, and that way, it feels like, okay, I can be open in this situation and feel safe and secure.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I tell you, come on in. If you are here again, share this podcast. Good morning, Angela. Thank you for joining. Good morning to, or good afternoon to everyone else. Thank you for joining. We do have one quick question. Where are you located?
So I am located in Atlanta, Georgia. That is where my physical location is, but like I mentioned, I can see um patients or clients who live in anywhere in the Georgia area or anywhere in the Florida area. And I do all of my services are virtual to provide that flexibility.
Awesome, awesome. And if you need her contact information, we'll be sure to post that at the end of this podcast, you all. Well, let's keep going. Let's take a deeper dive and talk about what is some of the reasons why people, even caregivers, do not take advantage of therapy. What are some of the reasons that you have seen in your practice why people just decide not to take advantage of a therapist?
It can start with some of our core beliefs and values around what therapy is and what it looks like traditionally. Myths around therapy. So some of the things that I've had people, I would say a big shock is the one when they see me, right? Because they have this very old school fantasy idea about what therapy looked like in the past or what they've seen on TV. Of course, culture may play a big part in it. That is something that African Americans or Black Caribbean families did. We
Mhm.
kept information within the household and we didn't go talk about it. So that's one of the things, of course, the stigma of around people who seek out therapy, like you mentioned, had to be extremely mentally ill in order to seek out a therapist and something was wrong with it, right? It
Mhm.
might be spiritual or religious views that somehow if you go seek a therapist that you are challenged about your faith and your spirituality or your connection with your higher power. Accessibility. So for people who could not afford it, or did not have insurance, and then again, just not seeing somebody that looked like them. So now that we come to a space where mental health is promoted, it's not even just discussed, it's promoted. I think people are feeling more comfortable accessing it. They're feeling like, others can relate to them because they're not the only ones seeking it out.
Yes,
And so now I think as we come, into the space where we are, that people just feel more comfortable with the idea of talking to somebody and is more accessible.
yes. I agree. I know in the past, I did not have a therapist. I did not attend therapy sessions. Growing up in a Baptist church, that traditional way of dealing with your problems, praying, and prayer is good. We're not going to discount or dismiss prayer. But as I got older, as an adult, and life, like they say now, and things just start hitting me, different challenges. I needed someone else to talk to about my issues, about my challenges. And so I was introduced to therapy through my provider, believe it or not, that offered that. And so I began to understand that it's okay, you all. It is okay to go and sit and talk with someone else. As a caregiver, sometimes we tend to dump all of our emotions and feelings on our loved ones, as far as our spouse, our family members, and that's awesome if you have that safe place, within your home to share your emotions. But sometimes it's also good to take those emotions and those conversations to someone else that can really give you some tools to help you navigate your journey, whatever your journey may be. Maybe you're not a caregiver now, maybe you'll be one in the future. But believe me, like my mom used to say, keep living. You're going to need these tools to help you navigate life. You
Absolutely.
can't, you can't, you can't do this by yourself, and you're not supposed to do this by yourself. You need all these resources, all these tools. So, as Candace mentioned, sometimes you just got to get rid of some of those traditions that are not healthy today. Maybe they worked back then, but today some of those traditions are not always healthy today. So find out what works best for you. Find a therapist in your area and find out, what's going to be the best option for you to get the help you need and continue to live a successful life. Okay?
Yeah.
Isn't that good? Well, I
Absolutely.
tell you, we're gonna be back in a few minutes. We're gonna go through to a commercial break, and we'll be right back, right here on Keep Living in Your Right Mind.
What's up, family? It's your girl Terry White Hicks, and I am here to invite you to join me every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Midday Miracles and Manna, right here on We Empower Network.
Awesome, awesome. So welcome back. So remember you all, we are broadcasting right here from We Empower Network, the baddest network in the land. So remember, as I stated before, going over to We Empower Network, we have a lot of other podcasts and shows that I'm sure will interest you. Okay? So, welcome back again, and let's continue to dive into this topic, therapy, the new normal. So, Candace, as we talked about our traditions, we talked about our background, we talk about how people are not really, therapy is not their first choice. Sometimes they may say, okay, I'm just going to pray about it. Or sometimes they may say, I'm just going to drink about it. Or I'm
Hmm.
just going to smoke about it. They thinking other things can help them get rid of their problems and their issues. And then they find out later on in life as they get older. I mean, you stated that your oldest client was 85.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. I tell you. So even talking about our backgrounds, what can we really change within our mindset
Hmm.
to help us understand that therapy is an option for us?
Yeah. I think it goes back to challenging some of our core beliefs that were instilled in us as we were raised and reared, right? And that our family has beliefs and things that work for them, right? And sometimes it can be challenging to try to go against those beliefs and dispute the things that have worked maybe for our family over generations and saying, well, that doesn't work for me. I recognize that maybe that was a thing that worked in the past, but I can see how harmful that was, right? So you talked about how we try to self-soothe and we try to avoid dealing with tough emotions, so we internalize them and then we use unhealthy things like drinking and drugs and other unhealthy coping skills that lead us to more challenges and issues, and we find ourselves still coming back to the core issue is learning how to deal with whatever those things we've internalized or suppressed over time. And so I think sometimes we can challenge that this can be a healthy outlet for me. This can be something that is now normal in our sense of what we call normal, right? But it is acceptable to go and talk to somebody. And even if I tried or I decided to do it, I don't have to share that with any person. So that way I don't have to
Right.
hear other people's beliefs being, shared with me and challenging me to make a decision that might be the right thing for me. And so a lot of times it is really shifting our own perspectives about that. And that may be like more information. So whatever myths or, misconceptions people might have about therapy is really getting more information. I really like asking that question when I have a new person that's never participated in therapy. I always ask them like, what interpretations or beliefs did you have about this prior to starting it, right? And a lot of times the biggest myth people will say is I don't want to be on medication. And I'll say, good, 'cause
Right.
I don't have the ability to prescribe you medication, right? Yeah, it's like helping
Yeah.
kind of break down some of those barriers or ideas about it. It's not saying that medication can't be helpful and necessary and I can get you to the right person to do that. But again, participating in therapy does not mean an automatic prescription. You know,
Yeah.
or finding a good fit. Maybe they had a bad experience and then they're like, I'm writing therapy off altogether. And it's like, okay, maybe you got to try somebody that's a better fit. It's so many of us out here with different backgrounds, with different personalities, with different training. So we connect differently. And, sometimes you just got to go through the process of finding someone that's going to be a good connection for you. So I think going back and just maybe identifying what beliefs do I have about therapy that may have prevented me from seeking it out, and how can I challenge those?
That is good. And when you talk about going through the process, I want our viewers and everyone to understand that even from my experience going through therapy, you have to put in the work.
Yes.
Um, and that's with anything in life. But when you think about going to see a therapist, I don't want to give you the false idea that, hey, they're going to solve all your problems.
No.
And you're going to go back home and you're going to spread your wings and you're going to fly. you're just going to be awesome and you're not going to have any more issues or challenges. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that they're going to give you tools to help you. And then you have to put in the work. You
Yes.
know, you have to go back and do the homework. And sometimes we have to just look at ourselves in the mirror, you all. And that's hard to do sometimes. You know, we have to start within. I really believe it starts within. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, Janae, what is it about me that I need to work on, that I need to change, that I need to improve? And
Yes.
that's not dismissing your feelings. That's not dismissing your emotions or dismissing where you're at in life, your challenges. But they're saying, you know, I had to realize everyone have their own belief system. And I may think other people should be thinking the same way I'm thinking.
Correct.
But that's not true, you all. You know, you're setting yourself up, I think, for failure when you think like that. But everybody should think, well, no, everyone didn't come from the same background. Everybody got different belief systems, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you realize to stop throwing those expectations out there, and then when they're not coming back to you, it's not reciprocated, then you get hurt,
Yes.
you get embarrassed, or you feel like, oh my goodness, well, what did I do? Well, you got to realize at the end of the day, the only person that you can really control is yourself. You can only control yourself. Okay? So, in that, go get the help that you need. Figure out what that looks like for you. Candace talked about earlier the different type of therapists, and I'll make sure to get that information from her to post it. But figure out what's going to be best for you. And I'm telling you, it'll make a big difference in your life for yourself first, okay? And then it should help others around you. They should see some type of difference. It may be 10%, 5%, 20%, I don't know. But there should be some type of difference that they see over time. So just know that going to see a therapist is things are not going to change overnight, but it's just you putting in that work.
Absolutely.
What are some homework assignments or things that people can do at home, even if they're still like, well, I'm not sure if I really want to go see a therapist. I don't want to make that move right now, or maybe I just don't have enough money, or maybe my insurance is not going to cover it. What are some things that they can just do at home?
I mean, self-care is really important, and prioritizing it, looking at it as something that is as equally important as caring for your loved ones, right?
Mhm.
And so we will prioritize that and look at self-care as optional for us, right? It's something that we will do if we have time, if we get to it.
Mhm.
First thing might be shifting that idea around prioritizing caring for ourselves and
Yes.
ensuring that I always say I don't want that to be the motivator for people to take care of themselves, but the idea is that if I take good care of myself, then those that I care for will be in good hands because I will have the
Yes.
capacity to do so and to sustain
Yes.
myself while continuing to do it ongoing. And so really just shifting the perspective that it is imperative for me to take care of myself, just like we
Yes.
prioritize sometimes our physical health, right? Our mental health is equally as important. It impacts that actually. So we look at it that way, right? We look at our mental health differently because we can't see our emotions and that this is one vessel. You can't separate your heart and your mind from your
Mhm.
physical being. And that impacts the way that we function. It impacts our sleep. It impacts our health and our overall well-being. And so we could just start with shifting a perspective of how imperative and important it is to do the things that we need to do to care for ourselves. Attach our care to the others, right? If I feed
Mhm.
you, I need to eat. You're resting,
Yes.
I need to rest. I take you to all
Yes.
your appointments, I need to go to the doctor and ensure that my health is up to par, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure you're getting up out of the bed and moving around. I need to do the same thing, right? And so that can be really helpful. Also, finding an outlet, a hobby, DIY, something that brings some joy and reduces some stress. So that
Yes.
can be really, really helpful. I always talk about going back to things that you maybe did as a child or a young person that creates that nostalgic feeling because that's available to us now, right? That may be journaling, coloring in a
Mhm.
bit a coloring book. They have adult coloring books. Um, any type of like pampering that you could do at home. Aromatherapy is really helpful. Meditation, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like a spiritual meditation, but there's ways to like manage stress and relax. And so it really is finding a healthy outlet to separate yourself emotionally and mentally from that caregiving role, and just
Yeah.
thinking about yourself in that moment. Like for this 30
Mhm.
minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I am really just focused on restoring myself so that I can continue to do what it is that I'm offering to those that are around me.
Those are good. I tell you, when you talk about other options, my first course when I was in graduate school was mindfulness. Never heard about that course before ever in life. Okay. And so taking that course allowed me to understand that there are times when I just need to pause.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to be quiet in that moment. I need to feel myself. I need to hear myself breathe in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you all, the best sanctuary for me is my bathroom. Okay, everybody got your own place. Choose wherever your place is in your home. Maybe it's in your car before you get out the car in the garage. Maybe that's your safe place or your
Mhm.
sanctuary. But I found that the bathroom was my sanctuary, and I can just be quiet. I can
Yeah.
just be in that moment. And sometimes we think that multitasking is the way of
Mhm.
life. We think if we handling 25 things at one time, we bad.
Right.
Okay? But sometimes that can lead to other issues, health issues, have you stressed out mentally. And so you just want to be very, very aware of how you are training your mind and your body and your spirit to operate each and every day. Find those safe places and those sanctuaries just for you, where you can just be quiet and in the moment. I felt like before I took that first class, I felt like, oh, nobody ever gave me permission just to sit still and be quiet.
Right.
I thought I had to keep running around. I thought I had to do all these 25 things at one time. You mean to tell me I can really be still and be quiet and
Mhm.
it's okay? Like, oh, okay. Well, that's the new way. That's the new way. I'm telling you, when I was scared from my mom, I was going back and forth every day. Wake up every day and had the same routine every day, making sure my family was okay, making sure mom was okay, working 8, 9, 10 hours a day.
Right.
I never did pause. You know, the only time I paused is when I got into bed at night. And some nights I didn't even look at myself in the mirror. Okay, I just got into bed because I was tired and I
Mhm.
knew I had to get up the next day and do it all over again. So that's why I am here offering you all these resources, telling you about these options. I don't want you to continue the same path.
Yeah.
I want you to live different. I want you to take hold of this journey and know that you have options and you have permission to take care of yourself, to increase your self care and figure out just what is best for you. You don't need nobody else's opinion to tell you what's best for you. Find out and figure out what's best for yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay? Candace, I tell you, I have enjoyed this. You're going to have to come back, for a part two.
I will. Thank you for having me, and I definitely will come back.
Candace can be, her email contact information, you all, is Candace Morley, LCSW at gmail.com. I'll make sure to post the correct information for you all. Candace, do you have any final encouragement words for our viewers?
I mean, I just hope that they walk away understanding how imperative self-care is, and changing the narrative. For a lot of people believing that self-care means being selfish and taking care of yourself, and that two things can be true at the same time. You can take care of yourself and you can take care of other people. And so if you can just shift your perspective on that and understand how important that is, um, it may make the load a little lighter, not necessarily light or easy, right? Because taking care of somebody else is a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
But you'll have the wherewithal and the capacity to do it if you prioritize self-care. And if you consider going to therapy, but you have some hesitations or reservations about it, hopefully something that was shared here today has challenged you again to shift that belief and maybe do some more research about it. And if you have questions about it, even if it's not me that you'll be coming to see, hopefully I can answer some of those questions and get you to the right person.
Well, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Candace. I appreciate you being here. And again, you all reach out to Candace, okay? Yeah, like she said, she may not look like your typical therapist, but I'm telling you, she's bad, okay? She will help you, okay? Candace Morley, lcsw@gmail.com. Well, thank you all again for tuning in today to Keep Living in Your Right Mind. And remember that keep living from page, okay? Increase your self care. Make the best and safest decision for you and your loved one and create a good support system. Okay? God bless you all, and we'll see you next week. Keep living in your right mind. Thank you, Candace.
Thank you for having me.